Show this slide, and I'm gonna change my mode of screen sharing because I see my head is in the way of some of the text. Um, so which of these would you call a bar graph? And if there's any in here that you distinctly would not consider a bar graph, um, go ahead and add that too. So which of these would or wouldn't you call a bar graph? Look, and I see, somebody says all of them, all of them, they'd consider them a bar graph. Another response that says not the one in the upper left, right? So the other seven, um, and I see someone else who says all are bar graphs, but bottom left is closer to a heat map, and that seems logical to me. And so all of these statements so far, I true statements and are kind of just scratching the surface of why the term bar graph can be so confusing to students. So which of these would you call bar graph? I think all of them are bar graphs, right? I think that's not the problem, is calling one of these a bar graph. I think the real problem is that bar graph is an overworked term. It's trying to do too much. So I want to go with and present this as a visual vocabulary for these kinds of graphs. And several of you commented on the one on the upper left being a histogram. And so we'll start with that. I think a histogram is a much more precise term. We'll look specifically at what that means and what it doesn't mean. But I think we can get more specific terms for all of the rest. So moving to the right in that top row from histogram, the next one is the one that I think is probably the one that maybe is most commonly is what students mean when they say a bar graph. But we're going to call this one a frequency bar graph. Just categorical data on there. It's a frequency bar graph. The one to the right of that in the gray and green, that's a stacked bar graph. Very, very similar to the frequency bar graph. We can kind of consider it a cousin of the frequency bar graph, but instead of having the bars appear side by side, they're stacked on top of one another. Then to the right of that, so the upper right corner, we have the stacked and grouped bar graph, where it's stacked bars, just like we saw in the stacked bar graph, but they're being grouped by a second variable. So there's another categorical variable which is grouping those, and then the frequencies are stacked on top of one another. If we drop down to the bottom left, we have the stacked and grouped bar graph as proportion. And this is a lot like the stacked and grouped bar graph in the upper right, but this one in the bottom left is stacked and grouped as proportion, which means we have changed the y-axis. It is no longer just showing us the number of observations with the heights of the bars, but instead it's showing us the percentage. So all of the bars are the same height, because they're each showing us 100% of the total observations. And then the different segments of the bars are being broken up by the groups that are formed and that you can see in the legend. Moving to the right with the two blue bars, we have the mean bar graph. And I give this the nickname of the dynamite plot. And I think this is a good nickname to help students remember what it is, because this one frequently, and I would say always should, be shown with error bars, because the height of these bars are showing the average of a numeric variable. And if you're just showing the average, you should include some measure of variance. And that's what those bars are showing. And we call it the dynamite plot sometimes because they look kind of like the old, like Wile E. Coyote old time dynamite detonators that you grab the handles of and push down on to detonate the dynamite. So those are the mean bar graph. Then moving to the right of that, we have the grouped frequency bar graph. And as a nickname, we could call this a 2x2 or a 2x3 or a 3x4, just depending on how many groups that we have there. And then in the bottom right there, we have the time series bar graph. And this is one that people interestingly commented. I think that one on the bottom right shouldn't be a bar graph. And I agree with you a great deal of the time. This one is one where in many cases there's really no reason for it to be a bar graph, and it might actually be better as a line graph to show change over time. But you can make a graph like this, and this is one where each group or each bar is a different time point or a different time period. And then on Y, you've got some uh, measurement or summary measurement of a numeric variable there. So